Go ahead and grab the sheet at your table that says Guiding Principles for Number Talks. We are not going to take the time to read this because we don't have a lot of time today, but I also know, just like with our learners, we have different learners, and there are some of you in the room who are going to want to take this home and read it because you're somebody who's a reader about things, and there are some people that are doers, and they'll never see this or look at this sheet ever. They probably won't even read a page of it, and I'm okay with that too because I'm in that group, so I totally understand that group, okay? This actually comes from a book that was called Making Number Talks Matter. It was written for grades 4 through 10. It was written after Sherry Parrish's book was written. It does a better job of explaining number talks than Sherry Parrish's book does. But her book was first, and so a lot of people kind of figured it out along the way, and this book did a good job of explaining it. So I'm just going to go through them really quickly, just again how you can see where those 5 things that we're trying to do or trying to promote with number talks happen. All students' ideas are worth listening to. And our job as teachers is to help to develop that. But you're going to watch a video in a little while, and there's something that you really need to know. Do not dig into everyone's ideas. Not everyone's ideas are worth more questions. So I teach people a phrase to use all the time, and it is, thank you for sharing. Who else would like to share something? You don't have to dig into everything that somebody says. If somebody says something, what if one of your high kids shares something that was like, wow, that was really high. Like, I would have never thought of it that way. If you go to dig, 90% of your class has no idea what you're digging into. And they disengage from that really quickly. And if that's a student who wants to share more, I'm gonna meet with you in stations later and we'll talk about that until you can show me that more. But that's not something that's gonna get you somewhere. But we do need students to know that we want them to share their ideas. We just have to be picky about what we choose to push more or to kind of hold off on. So that's our job. Through our questioning, we're going to understand students' thinking. Most of the work that you see about number talks says to you to let kids say, what was your strategy? How did you know that? And we ask them a lot of questions. I have found that that doesn't work. And it doesn't work because most kids don't understand what they're doing with math. They just do it. Or they don't have enough strategies to talk about yet. So they count on, instead of using a make 10 strategy, so the only thing they can explain is how they did 8 and then counted 7 more on their fingers. They don't have 3 ways to talk about it. So instead, I ask very pointed questions. How did you solve that by counting on? So that I can get that strategy out and get that strategy shared. Is there anyone who used a make 10 strategy? Instead of saying who would like to share, I ask much more pointed questions. I do a lot more targeting of my questions as opposed to leaving everything really open. And that helps facilitate, and it also helps keep the pace moving in the classroom. We want students to think conceptually rather than procedurally. When you get into 4th and 5th grade and you put a question up like we saw earlier today, 74 minus 38, they're going to stack that puppy up and start to cross it off right away. We are going to encourage them not to share that strategy. I don't want you to share it like you stacked it up. I want you to share it using place value, breaking apart numbers, using what you know about numbers. And so that's what we're going to encourage students to share. Mistakes are opportunities, and we want to make sure that mistakes are good, so you're going to have to keep facilitating that in your work. Efficiency is our goal, but we must recognize that efficiency is in the eye of the beholder. So there are some times that there is a most efficient strategy. What's 100 minus 999? 1. Should I stack that up and start to cross off the zeros? No. I should use think addition. 999, 1,000. It's a jump of 1 away. That's 1. That is the most efficient strategy for that. But there are other times where there are multiple strategies that could be efficient. And so just be careful that we don't hone too much in on the most efficient strategy sometimes, that we allow for that sharing to let kids get that out. We want to make sure that they feel safe. So we've talked a lot about that in conjunction with others. We're going to continue to build that agency of math and talking about math throughout this work. And that do know it happens over time. It won't happen on day 1. It will take some time to get there. We want confusion and struggle. But remember that phrase is called productive struggle. If the struggle is not productive, you've lost them. So we have to make sure that struggle can be productive or we can work through it. And again, we want diversity. We want lots of sharing to occur. So again, each of these is explained in a little bit more detail in the packet. If you'd like to read it, you certainly can feel free to do that. Again, our first strategy, all of this work is about number talks in general. So now we're going to hone in for the last 15 minutes or so on quick images. So a quick image lets us do all of that work we want. It lets us build around sharing multiple things. It lets kids share all the different ways they did it. But mathematically speaking, the two biggest things we're interested in are composing and decomposing numbers, thinking of numbers, how I break them and put them back together, as well as allowing students to subitize. Subitizing is when you see an image and you know what it is without having to think about it. So most of us know the dice images when we subitize. And this is also why we have to be really careful. If you flash this image to kids, even in kindergarten, they'll tell you it's 3. If you ask them, how did you know it was 3? They'll say, I counted it. But they didn't count it. They just knew it was 3, and we need to honor that right now. You just know. This is something you just know. You just know this is 3. Same like you just know this is 4. When you see this shape, you just know it's 4. You don't count it, you just know it's 4. When you see this shape, you just know it's 5. You've seen it on a dice many times. But when you see this, you've subitized differently. This is called, I always get the two mixed up. So there's conceptual subitizing and perceptual subitizing. So this is perceptual because I see it and I know it. I see that and I see it as 5. This is called conceptual subitizing because I saw it as 4 and 1 and my brain put 4 and 1 together and made 5. Their brain sees those things differently. And so we're going to vary which ones we use because we want both parts of that subitizing to happen so that kids understand what their brain did and how they saw that. Most kids are going to share that I saw 4 and 1. And they're going to share that because I intentionally put them in an array where I could see that and I used different colors to make sure that happened. So it's very purposeful on how those were chosen. So that's what subitizing is, when your brain looks at it and already starts to put it together. The mind naturally subitizes to 5, like a dice. Even when you see 6, most of the time you see 6 as 3 and 3, and that 3 and 3 make 6 on that dice pattern. So the brain tends to really go to 5 that way. It does most numbers after 5 through the perceptual subitizing of combining things together. So that's kind of the way it works. All right. So we're going to watch a video right now. It's a kindergarten teacher. While I watch the video, look at what kind of talk moves she's using and the way in which she's kind of questioning and engaging the students while she works.
My name is Stephanie Latimer, and today's lesson is Quick Images with my kindergartners. Quick Images is a very fast activity to show different combinations of numbers. And today's lesson was working on combinations to 8. Today I have 3 images for you, and I'm going to show them to you really quickly. You're going to give me a thumb right here if you have an idea how many you saw, and then I might ask you how you saw it. Are you ready? Here we go.
I don't show it that long. I show my images very quickly because the goal of showing a quick image is for them to visualize what they see and not to count it. So I flip mine much faster. Typically speaking, I use this board a lot. When I flip this board, I actually do this way, and most of the time, a lot of times I used to flip this way, which is really tedious when you try to flip, so I just do this, and then flip it back. Did you still know it was 5 in that quick flip?
Yeah.
You did. But if you leave it any longer, kids are going to try to count it, and they're not going to do what we want, which is to subitize and use what they know about numbers. So I flip much faster than that because I want to flip so that they can find that idea. I would rather you flip lots of times with wait time in between than flip for a long time, because if you flip for a long time, most of the time they're just going to count it and not use what you want them to see in that goal.
The first time I show one of the images, I usually do about 3 seconds. A lot of my kids will count, and I don't want them to really count. I want them to see groups. I'm looking for thumbs. JT?
8.
8. Looking for thumbs. Isaiah?
8.
Devin?
8.
Michelle?
8.
Cameron?
8.
Dariana?
8.
Okay, I'm hearing a lot of...
So I love this video, but I also love to pick it apart. So hopefully she's not here, so that's the good part. She's an amazing teacher, by the way. She also has accounting questions videos that is outstanding if you've ever seen it. She's very good. I don't call in that many kids either. You've lost the pace again of the class to move that forward. Most Number Talks book will tell you, you show the image or you put the mental math up, and what you do is you call in a lot of kids to give you answers. If it's one that they already know very quickly, if I showed that one, I would flip it and I would say, I'm gonna count to 3, tell me how many you saw, 1, 2, 3, 5. Ooh, we all knew it was 5. Guess what? You just know that one. Moving on. Not everything has to be a ton of conversation. Now hers should be more conversation because she's using a 10 frame and trying to get them to see what's there and what's not there. You should flip it quick, but you should still have more conversation. So that's gonna be the goal. I know kindergartners especially want to talk, and so we want to call on more people just to get them to talk, but I'd rather they talk in a turn and talk than by calling on a lot in that process. So that's how I would shift that up a little bit.
8. I'm going to show you again, and it's okay if you need to revise your answer or if you have the same answer. Are you ready? Okay, so one more time. Here we go.
1, 2, 3, 4.
I was showing images up on the screen from the document camera, and that just was too much for them. Magnets on the 10 frame on a whiteboard. That was easiest for me. Courtney.
8.
8. Jaden.
8.
Mari.
7.
7. Lauren Jean.
8.
8. Michelle.
8.
So you saw 8. Can you tell me how you saw 8? I'm going to put it up again so you can see it.
There's a 5 on the top and 3 on the bottom.
So you said there's 5 on the top and 3 on the bottom. Can someone tell me what Michelle just said? Courtney, what did Michelle just
It
say?
said 5 on the top and 3 on the bottom.
5 on the top and 3 on the bottom. Did anyone else see it that way? Can you do this if you saw 5 on the top and 3 on the bottom? Okay, we're gonna do another one. Are you ready for it?
How can be 8?
You're right, Cavell. Did you hear him?
Yeah.
He said it's still gonna be 8. So now you know how many it is, right?
Yeah.
How many is it gonna be? It's gonna be 8. So I don't wanna know anymore how many there are. I wanna know how you see them. Are you ready? Okay. So you're not telling me how many anymore, you're telling me how you saw them. Cavell, can you tell me how you saw them?
I saw 2 on the bottom and 1 at the top and 4 right there and 1 right there.
Okay.
So what would I tell Cavell? Thank you for sharing. Who has another idea? Digging into that is not going to take you anywhere, or you're going to lose at least a minute while you dig into that, and you're going to lose more engagement during that process. So I give you full permission to often say thank you for sharing. I do like one thing that she did that I've seen sometimes as a struggle. Teachers will ask kids how you saw it, but they won't turn the board back over. If you're going to ask them how they saw it, they have to see it. So always turn it back over if you're asking that at that point in time, so they can use the picture to explain it. Go ahead and talk about your table. What are some of the things you saw in the video, specifically some talk moves that you saw?
Mm-hmm. The revising, she showed it a second
Now we're doing to find that objective. My question is, are there quick
I'm going to go ahead and have you wrap up so I can pull you back together.
Yeah, I'm wondering that too. Because kindergarten.
I promised Trisha I would try to stay close to 45 minutes, so I'm going to try really hard to do that. I have no trouble talking for a very long time. So you have a couple other sheets on your table. One of them says Getting Number Talk Started. So that's what's up there right now. We're going to go through this just really briefly. You saw some of these in the video. The back side of that has a feedback form. So what our goal is that, I'm going to go to this slide so you can see that, and then we'll come back here. I will come in for some professional learning. I will come back and I will model this for you so you can see it with your students in your classroom. I think it is very valuable for you to see it with your kids, not just see it in PL. So Tricia will put a schedule together for me, and I'll be here for a whole day, and I go to each room for about 15 minutes to model that in your room so that you see it. I think that is the most valuable thing that you can get, because too often we give you PL and just expect you to know how to do it, and I don't think that works very well. So you'll see me. I've done a lot of these too, so when you see me do this, know that I've done thousands of these on that spectrum at this point in time. So I have done a lot, which means I've seen a lot of the things they're going to say, right? And so I know a lot of what's going to come out. So some of the ways that I'm going to question them are going to see things, you're going to be like, and then you're going to go do it yourself, and you're not going to do it the way I did it. Okay? First of all, that's fine. We're all different teachers. You wouldn't want to be the same as me. Second of all, you haven't done it 1,000 times like I have done. So give yourself all of that time and grace to keep working through that. It's going to take some time, so don't worry about that. After that, you'll debrief with your team, and when you guys plan, we want you to try to say, where can these be implemented in my lessons, to try to engage them in, and then you have time to practice that, and then I'll come back and I'll watch you teach a lesson and provide you feedback. That's the sheet that's on that back side. When I come in your room, I fill out the sheet. Before I leave at the end of the day, the sheet gets returned to you and nobody else sees it but you. So it only goes back to you. It doesn't go to your principal or your instructional coach. They don't see it either. So it just goes to you. I think it's really valuable that any feedback I give you is for you to use, not for anybody else. So that's the goal. So that's what this sheet will look like. And there is a plan for all of that work. So I'm here today. I was actually supposed to be here in 2 weeks, and because of a scheduling snafu at the beginning of the year, we had to move it up. So thank you so much for being flexible to work with me on that. So I won't be back until December 10th to model that for you. You'll then have a couple of weeks to do that, and I will be back to watch you teach on January 7th. I'll come back on January 24th and give you learning on number strings. We'll do that same thing with a sample and feedback, and then we'll finish with mental math at the end of February, and then that'll wrap up into April. So that's kind of our goal. So what this sheet says to you is what you do. You'll notice that you saw thumbs. I'm a big believer that we always start with our fist on our chest, and then when you know the answer, you put your thumb up. I call it a silent thumb, and we keep it right in here because nobody knows when your thumb went up. When you raise a hand, everyone around the room knows when they see a hand, but when this is here, it's very private. And so I always keep it right here. The other thing, when you get to mental math later, if you have more than one strategy, this is I have an answer with one strategy, this is I have an answer with two strategies, and so on, so it gives you that flexibility. So I always use this piece. The other thing is this really talks you through it, again, very scripted and procedurally. So I give a question, I give wait time, I ask everybody for answers, and move from there. I don't follow that script all the time. Because if I show 5, I don't need to have that script, they just know this is 5. So I use my wait time and my questioning depending on what my goal is and where I'm going. So hopefully you'll see a little bit of that when I'm in your room. This is more the script, what you would do if you were following the procedure. I think you're going to vary it up and you'll find what works best for your style. The only thing I'll say I disagree with is at the end of that sheet, it says they normally take 15 minutes and oftentimes you might want to go longer. I would say no. And the reason for that is you have a lot to do in a day during math. Even 15 minutes is too long. Typically 10 is my goal. And if you're a kindergarten teacher, 5 is your goal. Sometimes 2. Okay? So the goal is, again, we want small bursts of things where we have great conversation and where we include everybody, but we don't have to fill a 15-minute time slot to get there. So that's part of our goal. Just so you know, as you start this, you're already doing this work, so this is the slide we give everybody else. This doesn't really pertain to you as much. You're already doing number talks in your building, but this is the goal that I give others. I ask them to start by doing it 2 to 3 days a week for 5 to 10 minutes. I do want, though, one thing to think about is I always say don't worry so much about the content to start, worry about the conversation. So the content should be low floor. Do things they can all engage in, but make sure the conversation is the high ceiling that you get everyone involved in. So if that's something that you want more in your room, that's what I would focus on in that next piece. There are materials in your unit guide. So in that unit guide, on that first page, on the right-hand side, it says math routines, and one of them says quick images. That is a clickable link that has access to a lot of things. Just like the teacher in the video, I prefer a whiteboard and magnets. It is my favorite thing because on the moment I can change this very quickly. And I can move it around. I can draw a 10 frame on it. I can do a lot of work with this. This is my favorite. If you make your own, you can buy garage sale stickers that work really well with little circles on them. So those are one thing I've used a lot of. For my a little bit later elementary, I made these one day to practice elapsed time. So I showed a clock and took it away like a quick image, so they had to think in their head, what is the time? After I showed the first one, I did it again, and then after I showed both, I asked them to find the elapsed time between the two pieces. So there are so many ways that you can get inventive with doing this work. What I found though is in a clock with a quick image, it did help. They had to process, where was that hand, where was that hand? They really had to think through those pieces to get there. And then what we also found out is they were really terrible at elapsed time that day. Because they really weren't using benchmarks of the numbers in the elapsed time, so it was a struggle. So that was one that I have put out there. Some that are out there, they're sorted by content. There are a lot of fraction ones. Graham Fletcher made some really great ones. He has ones that are on a number line, ones that just have these pieces. All of those are out there. Graham Fletcher also makes geometry ones. You can do these as geometry, so like, what did you see, two triangles, wherever in that piece. You can also start to ask attribute questions, such as when I flip the image, I want you to tell me how many corners there are. You would flip the image and the answer to that, in this one, that is 6 corners, not 2 triangles. So you can use these for a lot of different things, really vary up what you do in quick images. These are ones that I paid to buy. Everyday Math sells them. It comes with a set of over 200 that already come pre-made. They're really nice. Not that you want to spend any money on them, even though I love them, but they come with ones that already have things in 10 frames, in 5 frames, and so they have a lot of variety that they come with. In that process, they have multiplication ones, so they have a variety of different tools that they use. They also have some fractional ones too. And then I do want to caution you, if you make your own, be really careful on colors. Green worked out great, but orange was not so beautiful. That just hurts your eyes to no one's end. I have also made them with fractions with these. These are really great because you can cut the stickers in half and you can make them with fractions. So it allows you to do a lot of things, and worst case scenario, you can use a bingo dauber and make really quick ones right away. So those are some of the materials you might be able to use. So your goal as we move out of here is to really think in the next few weeks, what are some quick images that I might put in front of my students? What would that look like? What materials might I need? I'll be back in December to model for you, and again, come back in January in that process. And you will see a lot of me over the next few months. So I'll be here. On top of that, you can ask a lot of other math questions too. I'm happy to answer those as well. All right. Then I'll let you take over.